History is not written only by reckless conquerors or fiery heroes. It is not made up solely of great wars and destructive empires. More often, history is shaped by those who wait, by people who are patient, and who move at precisely the right moment. Today, we will talk about some of the most epic, most ruthless, and most meticulously planned revenge stories in history. From a widowed queen who turned an entire city to ash, to a captured general who smiled while planning the fate of those who had taken him hostage, to 47 samurai who waited for 2 full years before taking revenge for their fallen master. These are not stories of blind rage. They are stories of control, endurance, and cold determination. You probably know the meaning of the word mercy. Today, forget it. Because these are not stories of heroes. They are stories of those who refuse to forgive. If you are ready, let's descend into the dark corridors of revenge. We begin with what is arguably one of the most unforgettable all-or-nothing stories in human history: the revenge of Olga of Kiev. The year is 945. Prince Igor of Kiev has taken the throne after his father, Oleg, ruling over territories that now include parts of modern Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. To the west lived the Drevlians, a tribe that had long been forced to pay tribute to Kiev under the promise of protection. But they were tired of the burden. And when Oleg died and power shifted, they saw their chance. They stopped paying. Igor waited patiently for 33 years to collect what was owed. But before entering the 34th year, he decided to settle the matter himself. Perhaps he was a little too impatient. Either way, he marched with a large army into Korostin, the Drevlians' capital, and collected the tribute. And that should probably have been the end of it. But on the road back, Igor decided the payment was not enough. After all, he had waited 33 years for this money. So he returned with a small group of soldiers and demanded more. This time, the Drevlians refused. Igor's men were killed on the spot. Igor himself faced a much more horrific fate. They bent 2 birch trees, tied the prince's legs to each one, and cut the ropes. As the trees snapped back into place, Igor's body was torn apart, executed in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. The Drevlians' leader, Prince Mal, was emboldened by his savage victory. He set his sights on Igor's widow, Princess Olga. His goal was simple: marry her and seize control of Kiev's vast lands. That greedy decision marked the beginning of the Drevlians' downfall, because Olga was not the kind of woman you wanted to cross, and she would soon prove it to the world. Prince Mal sent 20 of his finest envoys to Kiev. Olga welcomed them with remarkable calm, the kind of calm that feels like silence before a storm. She dismissed them for the evening, telling them that her men would show them around the city and host them the following day. The next morning, Olga's men went to the river where the envoy's boat was docked. But instead of escorting them into the city, they lifted the entire vessel, boat and all, and began carrying it inland. At first, the envoys believed this was some great honor. They thought they were being carried like royalty. But the ride grew shakier, because Olga's men had worked all night digging a massive pit in the open steppe. When they reached it, they dropped the boat, with the envoys still inside, straight into the enormous grave. Then Olga's voice rang out, "Bury them alive." By the time the envoys realized what was happening, it was already too late. They had no time to plan an escape, only enough time to realize they were completely helpless as soil was thrown down upon them. And yet, Olga was only getting started. Soon afterward, she sent her own messengers to Prince Mal, telling him she accepted his proposal, but asking him to send his most distinguished men to escort her future husband's bride to Kiev. The second delegation consisted of Drevlian's nobility. They arrived quickly, Olga welcomed them warmly and directed them to her private bathhouse so they could freshen up. The nobles entered happily. The doors were locked, and the bathhouse, with everyone inside, was set on fire. Despite the lives she had taken, Olga had no intention of stopping. And the irony was this: the Drevlians still had no idea what had happened in Kiev. As a condition for marriage, Olga requested that Prince Mal host a grand funeral feast in honor of her late husband. The prince eagerly arranged it. Olga made a special effort to ensure that every Drevlian's guest drank themselves into a stupor. She encouraged endless drinking. By the end of the night, the hall was full of drunken, defenseless men. Olga summoned her soldiers inside and ordered everyone killed. It is said that 5,000 Drevlians died that night. Her final strike came against Korostin, the very city where her husband had been murdered. After returning to Kiev, gathering a massive army and marching once more, Olga laid siege to the city. Korostin was surrounded for an entire year. Other Drevlian settlements surrendered and resumed paying tribute, but Korostin refused. They feared that Olga still hungered for revenge. They were right. Eventually, famine became unbearable, and the city requested negotiations. Olga convinced them that she had already avenged her husband during the feast, and now wanted only tribute. She asked for a strange payment: 3 sparrows and 3 pigeons from each house. Odd as the request sounded, hunger left them no reason to refuse. When the birds were delivered, Olga ordered her soldiers to tie pieces of cloth wrapped in sulfur to each bird's leg. That night, she gave her second command: light them and release the birds. The birds flew home, back to their nests, and ignited every roof in the city. Within moments, Korostin was engulfed in flames. Those who fled were either killed or captured as slaves. It was a merciless revenge, and very likely driven by a love deeper than history can record. This is such a strange story that by the end, you may find yourself feeling sympathy even for its villains. In 75 BC, 25-year-old Julius Caesar was traveling to Rhodes when Sicilian pirates captured him. They quickly realized he was important. Instead of enslaving him, they demanded a ransom, 20 talents, roughly $2 million by modern standards. Caesar scoffed at the amount. Insisting he was worth more, he demanded the ransom be raised to 50 talents. For 38 days, Caesar lived among the pirates, not as their prisoner, but almost as their leader. He played games with them, scolded them when they displeased him, ate with them, as if the ship belonged to him and they were his crew. He wrote speeches daily and forced the pirates to listen. They joked together. But Caesar kept returning to the same joke: when I'm free, I'll crucify all of you. They laughed. Caesar laughed louder and reminded them he was completely serious. When the ransom was paid, Caesar was released. The pirates celebrated, but Caesar immediately raised a small force, returned to Sicily, reclaimed his 50 talents, captured every pirate involved, and carried out his promise. Because he had grown somewhat fond of them, he ordered them killed first, and then crucified afterward, so they would suffer less. Perhaps he considered this mercy. History would not. If the pirates were foolish, the heroes of this next story were anything but. We travel to Japan, 1701, to the tale of Ronin, who waited 2 full years to avenge their master. At Edo Castle, young Lord Asano Naganori was assigned a corrupt court official named Kira as his instructor. Kira demanded bribes, as he always did, but Asano refused. From that moment, he became Kira's enemy. Forced to work in the same palace, Asano endured endless humiliation. And on the day of his formal audience with the shogun, with all eyes upon him, Kira publicly insulted him once more, calling him a crude provincial. Asano snapped. He drew his wakizashi and struck at Kira. But weapons were forbidden inside the court. Asano was arrested, stripped of his lands and titles, and ordered to commit seppuku. His loyal samurai were branded Ronin, masterless outsiders. Kira survived with only a small scar. Justice seemed absent. The Ronin believed so too. But revenge required patience. As Kira feared retaliation, he hired guards and planted spies everywhere. He lost sleep watching for signs of conspiracy. Meanwhile, the Ronin lived ordinary lives. They married, raised families. Their leader, Oishi, even divorced his wife and descended into public disgrace, drinking heavily and humiliating himself openly. And because of this performance, Kira slowly relaxed. His guards were reduced, the spies dismissed. He slept easily again. But it was all a mask. The Rona had never stopped communicating. Every message coded, every move planned. 2 years after their master's death, on the night of January 31st, 1703, 47 Ronin surrounded Kira's estate. They warned the neighbors so no one would alert their enemy. The neighbors, who despised Kira, remained silent. Battle erupted. Nearly 40 guards were defeated. Kira vanished, but his bed was still warm. They found him hiding in a secret passage, dagger in hand. Oishi approached him, bowed, and offered his master's ritual sword, granting him the dignity of seppuku. Kira refused, so Oishi carried out the execution himself. At dawn, the 47 Ronin rode to their master's grave. Crowds lined the streets, offering silent respect. They placed their swords by Asano's tomb and surrendered, legally guilty, but under Bushido, they were heroes. The shogun allowed them to die honorably by seppuku. They were buried beside the master they had avenged. Generations passed, civilizations changed. One truth remained: revenge may burn brightly, but courage is what endures. 3 stories, 3 worlds, bound by the same truth. Just vengeance demands extraordinary courage, and it never arrives shouting. Sometimes it waits decades. Sometimes it pretends the world has forgotten. Sometimes it smiles and befriends the enemy. Olga burned a city for the man she loved. Caesar forgave friendship, but not disrespect. And the 47 Ronin sacrificed their lives for honor. History does not judge these acts the way we do. It simply records them and moves on. And I'm sure the same question sits in your mind now. Were these people monsters? Or just human beings, unable to forgive what had been done to them? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If you've watched this far, thank you truly. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you won't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments, which of these revenge stories affected you the most? Olga's burning birds, Caesar's smiling promise of the cross, or the 2-year patience of the 47 Ronin? I'll be reading every comment. What we shared today was only a small selection from the countless untold stories hidden in history's dusty archives. If you're curious about this darker, yet deeply inspiring side of history, then our journey has only just begun. In the next video, we'll continue exploring histories that are dark, magnificent, and too often forgotten. Take care, farewell, and never lose your curiosity for the past.